So, good morning, friends. I welcome you back on this class of video lecture. And, friends, we couldn't do the classes for last couple of days, looking to certain unavoidable conditions. So, today we again continue with the same poem which we were doing some days ago. We were doing Elegy written in a country churchyard, a very eminent poem written by Thomas Gray, and we have done the first 2-3 stanzas of the poem. So, just to keep the things fresh in your memory, I again read out the first 2-3 stanzas. The curfew tolls the knell of parting day. The lowing herd wind slowly over the lea. The ploughman homeward plods his weary way, and leaves the world to darkness and to me. The last line of the first stanza has been important from the point that since it is the time of evening, since it is the time of twilight, since it is that time when the day is dying and the darkness is falling over the world. So the poet feels that it is not the landscape only facing the darkness, but at the same time, it is the melancholy prevailing in his own heart. It is a sort of sadness prevailing in his own heart, and this melancholy and sadness is for all those who are not well acknowledged in society, who are not well placed in society, who are which is that class which is resourceless, which is poor and helpless, since they could never come in the forefront. So that's why this is a very pathetic line on the part of the poet, and leaves the world to darkness and to me. This is not the external darkness, this is not the outer darkness, but at the same time, darkness has entered the poet's mind and heart. This darkness relates to sympathy, relates to empathy. This is a sort of concern for those who are poor. Since poor has to go, has to undergo twists, trials, and tests. So, again, I repeat the second stanza. Now fades the glimmering landscape on the sight, and all the air a solemn stillness holds, save where the beetle wheels his droning flight, and drowsy tinkling lull the distant folds. So, in this stanza, the poet uh, enumerates some of the sounds which are audible in the landscape, save that from yonder ivy mantled tower the moping old does to the moon complain of such as wandering near her secret bower molest her ancient solitary reign. So these three stanzas, friends, we could do before I took the earlier classes. Now I start from this stanza, that is stanza number 4, right? Beneath those rugged elms that ye trees shed, where heaves the turf in many a mouldering heap, each in his narrow cell for ever laid, the rude forefathers of the hamlet sleep, hamlet, small villages, the rude forefathers. You see the selection of the words on the part of the poet. The rude, here, rude is not a sort of that characteristic feature, but rude here refers to uneducation, to unculturedness, or it refers to that lifestyle which is simple, rustic, and poor. You know, they were outspoken people, They were simple people. They were not that qualified. They never met that standards of civilization and culture which is often accepted in this society, which is full of snobbery, which is full of pretension, which is full of hypocrisy. That's why the poet calls them the rude forefathers who are lying in these graves, who are sleeping in these graves. The poet hints at the graves. The entire poem is revolving around graveyard. You see, it is a poem on contemplation. It is a poem on meditation. It is a poem on death. The poem deals with the issue of life and death, and particularly the poem deals with the issue of death. Right? What happens after death? And what happens when we are alive? How do we live? How do we struggle? How do we progress? Right? And finally, we come to the graves. So the journey from life, the journey from cradle to the grave is quite philosophical, mystical, and spiritual, and the poet Gray has been able to catch hold of these notes of contemplation when he says that the rude forefathers are sleeping in these, they are buried in these graves. Right? So, I again give you a sort of paraphrasing of this stanza. In this churchyard lie buried the simple and ignorant ancestors of the present generation living in the villages. You know, this simplicity is underlined. The simplicity of the villagers is underscored. The ignorant aspect of that generation is underscored. Simplicity and ignorance. Now, in the so-called civilized society, in the so-called civilized cultural structure, there is no way, there is no room for simplicity and ignorance. Rather, they are taken as a weakness, as a limitation. Who would want to remain as simple and ignorant? Right? Simplicity and ignorance are not welcomed. But the poet says that in this churchyard we could find the graves of some simple and ignorant ancestors. Right? They lie buried under the shade of that cluster of rough elm trees and that huge yew tree which I see over there, their graves being marked by mounds of earth slowly crumbling away. Since under the yew trees these graves are situated, and since these graves are not well cared, they are not well maintained, so in a way the graves and the earth get mingled. Right? No one can find whether it is the grave or it is the part of the earth. Right? So in this churchyard lie buried the simple and ignorant. So the poet, time and again the poet underlines the lives of simple people, the lives of ignorant people. Right? The breezy call of incense breathing morn. Now, the more we move on to stanzas after stanzas, the more we feel the note of pathos, the note of sympathy. Since this is the eternal fact of life, And what is the eternal fact of life? Death is the eternal fact of life. The breezy call of incense breathing morn. You see, come to the lines. Stanza 5th. The breezy call of incense breathing morn. Morning famous for incense breathing. Right? The gentle winds blow in the morning times. The swallow twittering from the straw belt shed. The cock's shrill clarion or the echoing horn no more shall rouse them from their lowly bed. Yes, when we sleep in the night, we wake up in the morning, we wake up by the noise of cocks and all the sounds which are audible in the morning time. Neither the sweet smelling breeze of the morning nor the twittering of swallows from their mudge and straw nets in the thatched roofs of cottages, nor the shrill crowing of the cock, nor the sound of the huntsman's horn that starts echoes will never again awaken them from sleep as they used to do when they were alive. This is the eternal fact that the dead people can never get awakened. Neither they can awakened by the sweet smelling breeze of the morning, nor they can be awakened by the twittering of swallows from their mud and straw nets, and nor they can get awakened by the shrill crowing of the cock, nor the sound of the huntsman's horn that starts echoes will never again awaken them from sleep as they used to do when they were alive. So, these are the 2-3 stanzas which we uh, did today, and I just read stanza number 6th. For them no more the blazing hearth shall burn, or busy housewife ply her evening care. No children run to lisp their sire's return, or climb his knees the envied kiss to share. So we shall do this stanza tomorrow. Thank you friends. Thank you so much.